say hotep, you say hotep. Hotep? Hotep. I say assalamu alaikum, you say assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. I say nagadef, you say mangifi. Nagadef? Mangifi. If I say samole, you say ebije. Samole? Ebije. No. Ebije. Ebije. If I say kairodrome, you say kairodrome. Kairodrome? Kairodrome. If I say sarabona, you say ingirikona? Sarabona. Ingirikona. All these greetings, all these words of peace on this day, on this hour, the commemoration of the International Day of Peace. This is a libation for peace, a libation for justice, a libation for compassion, a libation for righteousness. We give thanks to our ancestors and our elders for an opportunity to celebrate peace. Not just the absence of war and conflict, but the presence of justice. We give thanks this evening for all of those elders who have taught us well. I'm in the tradition that I know, where we ask our elders for permission to continue any important event. I ask all of my elders in the room for permission to continue. And if you're a little bit older than me, you're my elder. So I ask all of my elders, is it all right for us to continue? Yes. And we give all of our elders a big round of applause. There they are. This idea of peace is an ancient idea. We come tonight and we pour this water onto this soil to represent and symbolize life itself. We pour this libation for our ancestors so we might do three things. That we might remember, that we might reflect, and that we might renew. We remember that we are on Ohlone land, and we say Ashe. Ashe. We remember that our ancestors came here from many different places. Our Asian Pacific Islander ancestors, and for them we say Ashe. Ashe. We pour this libation today for our Mexican and Chicano and Latinx ancestors who did not cross a border yet. The border crossed them. The border crossed us. For them, we say Ashe. Ashe. We pour this libation today for our European brothers and sisters, the ones who came with good heart and good spirit, and for them, like, ready to get down with us for freedom and justice. We say Ashe. Ashe. We pour this libation today for our African ancestors. Yeah. The ones who came here, some of them came as explorers before that great Ma'afa. They were always seafaring people. They understood the heavens as well as the earth. So for those Africans, also those ones on the bellies of those ships. The ones who prayed for a day like today. A day where we could be together, all kinds of backgrounds and ethnicities, be together. For those ancestors, we say Ashe. Ashe. And we say we will not forget you. We remember them. And then we reflect on their lessons. We reflect on their lessons of peace and justice. So we reflect on the lessons that Martin Luther King taught us, and we say Ashe. Ashe. We reflect on the lessons that Ella Baker taught us, and we say Ashe. Ashe. We reflect on the lessons that Nelson Mandela taught us, and we say Ashe. Ashe. We reflect on the lessons that Yuri Kochiyama taught us, and we say Ashe. Ashe. We reflect on the lessons of all of those ancestors who came and did their work, not because they knew they would enjoy the fruits, but for us. Yeah. They were like what Thurman said, they planted pecan trees, not for themselves, but so that future generations could eat pecan pie. And we say Ashe. Ashe. We pour this libation tonight so that we can renew ourselves in this turbulent time, in this time of chaos, in this time of disrespect of women, in this time of disrespect of children, in this time where some would separate children from mothers and fathers, simply fighting for freedom and liberation and peace. We pour this libation today that we might engage our power, not our physical power, not the power of swords and bullets, but the power of liberation. That liberatory power that frees every people at every time and every place. It's that power that we call on tonight. And we say Ashe. Ashe. So I invite you just to reflect here for a moment and then call a name. Someone in your family, someone in your community, someone in our history who taught us about peace. So just call those names out right now. Yeah. We say Ashe. Call them out. Call them out. Call them out. And we say collectively, Ashe. Let it have power. Let it have energy. Let it have force. So that from this day, we become the griots, the jolly bow. When we sang that song just now, and we played it together, when you clapped, you became drummers. If you got hands, you were a drummer. Ashe. But that rhythm is about the storytellers, the griots, the jolly bow, who circulated in the community with the story of what was real, the story of what was true, the story of what was authentic. So tonight, renew your energy for peace. It is not a passive prospect. We have to work it in every situation we find ourselves in. Can we do that? Yes. Can we do that? Yes. And we say it tonight to close it 3 times. We say Ashe, 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 oh. Y'all can clap.
Thank you so much, Baba Greg Hodge, for opening us up in the right way. So welcome, family. Wow, I have the best spot in the house right now because I get to look at all of your beauty. Y'all look good. Y'all should look around a little bit and see who's here. Yeah. This is community. And this evening is an evening of healing in community. My name is Reverend Liza Ranco, and I'm the founder of OneLife Institute. And OneLife is just so honored to be your hosts for this evening. Yeah, we serve at the intersection of spirituality and social action. We nurture, inspire, and sustain people committed to healing and to justice. That's our calling. We've been about that for 14 years. Yeah. And so we're just so excited to be here. Like all of us in the front row, we're like, it's happening now, right? I want to just give you a little bit of context. It was last year sometime at Stanford University, Sister Alice Walker gave a talk called Taking the Arrow Out of the Heart. And I don't think I was the only one grumbling on Facebook, like, we need that in Oakland, because that was only open to Stanford people. And because I am blessed to call Sister Alice my friend, I did more than grumble. I said, Alice, we need to do this in Oakland. And she said, yeah, let's do it next year for sure. And then the beginning of 2018, she said to me, have you ever heard of these amazing musicians from Cape Town called Desert Rose? And I had not. And she pulled them up on YouTube, and she says, will you help me bring them to Oakland for a concert? And so we decided to bring those together. The healing music of Desert Rose and the wisdom word of Alice Walker. So if that's what you're looking for, you all are in the right place. Now, yesterday, I made a program, which I hope you have, because the reason I made it was so that I wouldn't be giving you a bunch of announcements that you would just stop listening to. So this is actually informative. It tells you that there will be no intermission. And if you need to use the restroom, you just put your finger up like in church and tip out, handle your business and tip back. If you get tired of these wooden pews, you can stand up in the back or along the sides. Take care of yourselves. All right, we're here in community. This is not a performance. This is a healing space. All right, so take care of yourself, right? Desert Rose asked me to particularly say, please don't applaud after each song. They want you to receive this as medicine, right? This is not performance to them. This is healing medicine. And so they invite you just to enter in to the spirit of the music and receive. Okay? You've got the flow of the evening. You've got some notes, some bio notes. Technically, I'm going to introduce Sister Alice to you right now, and then she's going to introduce Desert Rose. But I am guessing that if you're in this room, you already know what a magnificent sister this is. You know that she's an internationally celebrated author, activist, and poet. You know that she has put herself on the front line for the folk for more than 50 years. You know that she brings such a profound heart and wisdom to everything, and that she is one of the most authentic human beings and the most compassionate and wise human beings that I've ever had the privilege of knowing. So I'm going to invite her up. She's going to just share briefly about why she wanted to bring Desert Rose to Oakland in particular. Then they're going to share their beautiful medicine with you. And then Sister Alice will bring the medicine word. So come on up.
Stuff. I can go home now. I met Desert Rose when I was in Cape Town, South Africa, because there was a Russell Tribunal on Palestine, and I was one of the people involved with that. And I, however, was so tired that I actually missed the concert that they were giving, and I really regretted that very much, but I'm catching up now. And I went back home and I started listening to them on basically YouTube and just absolutely adore them and feel that their music is just, you know, it's medicine for the soul. And we are in a place where we need this very desperately. And as Rumi says, you know, if you want to live your soul, find a friend and stay near. And their music has been that friend for me for, I guess, about 8 years since I first heard it. Because in these times, in all times, we need to continue to live our souls. We have to live our souls. Don't be fooled by the, you know, the hype about how you can live yourself in your Buick. You need to be in your absolute soul in this world. We may never, and probably will never, be here again. And it's a glorious experience. I have no, even with all of the disasters, I have no real qualms about saying how much I have loved being alive on this earth. It is an incredible place, and we are so lucky. And the way we know that from time to time is that we will hear some music that just breaks the heart and heals the heart and leaves the heart open, you know, for further growth, further adventure, and further love. And what more can you ask? So Yusuf and Lynn will be coming up and sharing with you. I love you, Liza. I really appreciate so much the hard work that you've done. I think you've lost a few pounds trying to bring us all together, you know, herding sheep and all. I mean, not sheep, what is cats? Herding cats. Well, I prefer herding sheep, but anyway. So I'm just so happy that you're here, and welcome. And now we are ready to hear you. We're ready to hear you, and we will be listening, and our hearts are open. And welcome to our part of the world. I love Oakland. I just got here, but I really love it as if I've always been here. It's the first urban place I've ever really loved. And it's because of all of you. So thank you for coming.
we love Oakland too. We just came from Jamaica, New York, not Jamaica, the other one. And our first day here in Oakland, I said, I love this place. And Lynn said, she loves this place as well. So, Sister Lisa asked me to say a few words. This is not the norm with me, because I prefer expressing myself through the music. But perhaps maybe just share with you that I was born in South Africa, ancestors from Indonesia and Scotland. So on the one hand, my mother was looking like Lisa, and my father looked like a darker complexion. So I was completely confused all the time. What was this apartheid about? And so I share with many of you this experience of discrimination, being marginalized, having to walk to the back of the bus when the front three front rows were open, and looking at people with a different color walking on the beach with their dog, but I could not walk there. So yes, I do share a lot of commonality with what black people have gone through in the United States. However, over the last few years, last 20 years, one comes to realize that we need some healing. And it was our late president, our beloved Madiba Nelson Mandela, that said, he realized the day that he left prison, if I did not let go of this anger and this sorrow that I've kept within me for 27 years, I would still be in prison. And it was a great lesson, because often sorrow can be like a wheel that repeats itself. And how to get out of this wheel. We are all activists, and I was also very active. And there was another profound saying by Jalaluddin Rumi that said, I was once clever and I wanted to change the world. But then I became wise and I changed myself. So, thank you. So, when I started with Lynn is actually the musician. I'm not a musician, actually. I just sing, which I've been doing since a small child, from the age of 10 in a Sufi group. And that became my life, and it became my love. And another saying that was quite profound for me was Dr. Martin Luther King, that said, next to the Word of God, the most powerful medium to change and shift the heart is music. And back in 2006, when I met Lynn, I understood it intellectually. Today, I understand it in my heart, how it can change you. So I'm going to invite everyone tonight to go inwards. We're always out there, There's another saying that I can't remember who it was. It says, when there's negative energy, vibrate higher. And how can you vibrate higher if you do not go inwards and change that which is within yourself? So we invite you to go inwards. And tonight the first song is called Remembrance. It uses the Arabic words Rahman and Rahim, which is the most merciful, the most compassionate. So in remembrance of all these lives that does matter, that's been lost, we welcome you to go inwards on this journey with us. always with me. Your face never leaves my sight. Day and night, I have been longing for you. My life is spent, but my desire for you remains. Waheguru, Waheguru, Waheguru.
now sing the ancient Aramaic, the original language of Jesus Christ. Avun de Bashmaya, Nitkad Ashamo. O Mother, birther of the cosmos, let your light shine in me.
Bashmaya Nikad Ashmu Tete Malkutar Nechwei Sibianach Aikana de Bashmaya Avbara Nechwei Sibianach Aikana de Bashmaya Avbara Nechwei Sibianach Aikana de Bashmaya Bara Chavlan Lachma Desun Kanan Yomana واشبقلان خوبيين وقتين أي كان دفخنان سوكنا الخيبين ويل دخلا لنسونا لبتسا من بشار متود لخ إيمان كتاب وهيلا وتشبك تعاي لو لم ألمين
wrongdoing and all right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. And when the soul lies down in that grass, the world is so full to talk about.
Hey, I'd like to call up Sister Alice to come and join us with her rain stick. The next song is to honor the Khoisan, or what people call the Bushmen, and all the indigenous communities that have suffered so much. So we want to honor them because they hold the wisdom that is necessary for us today to connect ourselves again to nature and to master the elements instead of the elements mastering us. So this song is to honor our ancestors. Chui quatse abotse sida nahunse sidanse nanoba abakawire inhuna uwire ida sida hati uwire. Sida inse Chui kwase Abote sida nahunse Sida inse Ngandu baba tawire Inhuna ubire Ida sida haki ubire
So we have come to the end of our first half, and we would like to close with a music rendition of beloved Alice Walker's poetry taken from the book, Taking the Arrow Out of the Heart. This poem resonated at a very deep level with me, the poignancy, the innocence of mother and child in a world that has no value for the pure and the vulnerable. So we will sing this poem and pay tribute to mothers and children who have suffered in war zones all around the world with no one to hold their hand or to protect them.
After 10 years of singing, this is the second song in English that we've done. So please forgive the pronunciation. I am from South Africa, with a mother that couldn't speak English or Afrikaans properly, so yeah. But I'm young.
Wind, I would blow fear away from you. If I could be the mother of water, I would wash out the path that frightens you. يا ثمنا يا ودود يا رحمن If I were the mother of trees, I would plant my tallest children around your feet, that you might climb beyond all danger. Al-Hikmah am only a mother of humans whose magic powers have vanished since we allow our littlest ones to face injustice, suffering, and the unholiest of terrors. Alone, alone, alone. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to start by saying how happy I am that you are here, and to say how happy I am that they are here, and how wonderful it is to have this time to be together out of the storm for a few hours, to remember what it can be like to be together in peace, hearing something that is nurturing and good for us. And good for Oakland. And I wanted to start by actually reading a poem about Oakland, because I just have never liked living in cities. And it's not that I suddenly like living in a city. I mean, I spend as much time in the country as I can. But Oakland is special. It really is. And I really am concerned, even though I just got here, with its safety, you know, as the precious jewel that it is. So the very first month, I think, that I moved into my little space here, I was so enchanted that I wrote this poem called Loving Oakland. Are you ready? If gentrifiers do not despoil it, which means getting rid of the poor and black and people of color people, Oakland can be what it has been for a long time, an urban paradise. It is a place where the young blonde woman crossing the street in front of you and in front of your car would look like a threat to the neighborhood, except she's frowning over some deep issue in her inner life and wearing outrageous, vivid blue shoes. It is a place where, as you sit on the grass by the lake, a tall black man of a certain age strolls by blowing his saxophone. You smile and bow, he bows back with his horn. His day is mellow, he's in the sun. He has given mellowness and sun free of charge to you. Here I have found a previously unexplored love of sports. At least I love the Warriors. See? I figured that one out pretty fast. Something about basketball is so graceful, the players so serious, skilled, nonviolent, and intense. I sit grunting and groaning like everyone around me, We are for a short time family, and these are our brothers engaged in peaceful war. I love it that the State House wears blue and yellow in long, emphatic lights the whole season the team is playing, and that our waitress wears blue and gold earrings and shakes her curly dark hair to make sure we notice them. Loving Oaklandia. Frida and Diego would have. Frida never liked Chicago and actually suffered in New York City. In Oakland, she could spread her lovely dresses around her on the grass in that new place designed for sitting and lying at the far end of the lake. Diego would appreciate the murals that are sometimes several stories high. He'd want to paint his own. Of course he would. Whoever said there is no there, and I think we are wrong to think Gertrude Stein meant this and wasn't joking, though who knows what Oakland was in her time or what she was in Oakland's time when she is alleged to have said this. Because, and thanks many claim to Jerry Brown's foresight about cleaning up the lake, there's plenty of there in Oakland. And I won't stop here to remind us that we have to affirm what people do that is really good, even when we're struggling with the parts that we have trouble with. It is not just its streets, it's good places to eat and play with one's children and families, not just the lake, which people love with so much devotion, though they might never call it that. It is that smile that hits you in the heart every time it happens, when a total stranger greets you on the path. The way the hefty sisters are admired by all who see them as they hustle by, arms swinging, knowingly improving the view by making it real, and completely enjoying their daily exercise. It is the sense that something that was alive for a very long time is still alive, not yet beaten into submission or oblivion by those who kill everything they touch with money. This book, which I wrote over a period of a couple of years, and most of the poems are on my blog, came out of this feeling, and I think I have Pema Chodron to thank for my first hearing of the idea of taking the arrow out of your heart rather than screaming at the person who put it there. If you get it out of your heart, you may still want to scream at the person, but get it out of your own heart first. And there are actually ways to do that. Now, one of the ways that I wanted to, before I go into reading more poems, one of the ways is a very quick, for tonight, lesson in something called Lojan. And it's a meditation that is about taking in and sending out. And the gist of it is that, okay, we are in a terrible situation on the planet. You know, the fires, sometimes you just don't know what's going to be left. I mean, you'll be flooded out, you'll be burned out, you'll be bombed out, you'll be just, all of the possibilities are now available, and, we see them. But what do you do with your feelings? What do you do with that feeling of just, stuffed with despair, basically? You're just stuffed with despair. So in this practice, what you do, and I want to do a very short demonstration with all of us, because essentially the pain, the heaviness of it, feels like it's something that is hot, heavy, dark in the sense of scary, and it's just about to take your breath away from you, and you can't figure out how you can make yourself feel better. And the teaching is that instead of running from that feeling, which is why, you know, the drug industry is just so happy with us suffering, instead of running away from it, you actually draw it into yourself. So if you, one illustration that is very handy is to imagine this room. You remember all the fires we've been having, all that smoke? Where I live in the country, you know, the smoke is so thick, you can't really, you know, hardly see anything when the fires are going, and you just feel like ashes are falling all over your desk, you know. So just imagine that this room is completely full of the heaviest, darkest, most acrid smoke from the fires that we have been having for the past several months, you know, half a year. And what you do is you instead of, you know, trying to, you know, go to another place or something, just sit there, hold your seat, and breathe it in. You know, and assume that it's in this room. Let's just hold this room as the place that this is happening. So what you want to do is you know, sit fairly comfortably, but, you know, upright, and breathe in all of the smoke. If this room is just completely full of smoke, your job is to clear it just by breathing it into yourself. You take all of that and breathe it in as deeply as you possibly can. You know, just as much of that as you can hold. Okay. And then you wonder what to do with it, right? What do you do with it? Well, what you do with it is you decide what it is you'd rather have. And then you breathe that out, but not just for you. You breathe whatever it is that you would prefer out to everybody on the planet. So if you are breathing in all of the disaster, you know, all of the child abuse, all the pedophilia, all of the torture of, you know, animals, all of the fires, all of the floods, you know, all of the hogs that died in the last disaster over in the Carolinas, you want to breathe out what you really prefer for everyone, and it will be different depending on who you are. For me, what I breathe out is a walk on the beach, a beautiful, clear, fresh, wonderful, sand is clean, you know, beach for everybody on the planet. And that's what you hold in your mind as you breathe out. You want that for everybody, never just for you, but just for everybody. You want all the children on the planet, you know, when they get up and they, instead of running outside and discovering that, you know, their whole neighborhood has been destroyed, or all the other horrors that we can all think about, they're running outside to a beautiful beach that is, you know, just perfect for them and perfect for you. And this is the process of taking in, you know, not running from what is horrible pain and disaster. And we've been feeling it, you know, now for some of us for hundreds of years, but, you know, at least for the last couple of years, we've really been feeling it. And breathing out what we would rather have. So this is a meditation that, if you are interested in learning more about it, it's called Lojong. And it comes with a whole lot of teachings in the Buddhist tradition. And Pema Chodron is the incredible teacher of this way of dealing with, you know, just horrible life situations and fear and trouble. So this book comes out of thinking about, you know, how do we relieve ourselves? How do we, you know, deal with our own pain? We are so often hit by arrows of all kinds. You know, I mean, the Cupid kind of arrow now seems almost like something you want, you know. Oh, good, just shoot it right into the heart, buddy. You know, that would be tolerable. Because now, you know, it would be like a pinprick, but the arrow that goes into us when we witness suffering, you know, when we witness, you know, children in cages, not just, you know, recently in our country we have children in cages, but, you know, they've been being put in cages now for some time. and they've been abused for some time, and you know, the news is really bad. So anyway, so the point though is that you don't want to you know, just linger with the fact that, you know, as we would say in the South, who shot John, you know, with whoever shot it, whoever is doing it. You want to take it out, because until you can take the arrow out, you can't heal. And so, you know, it may well be that you have a president who is just, you know, making your last nerve, you know, ache, and a Congress that's awful, and, you know, the schools are terrible. But you have to really think about healing your own heart. You have to try to get that arrow out. So the first section of this, I'll read to you just a little bit. No one escapes a time in life when the arrow of sorrow, of anger, of despair pierces the heart. For many of us, there is the inevitable need to circle the wound. It is often such a surprise to find it there in us when we had assumed arrows so painful only landed in the hearts of other people. How to learn to relieve our own pain, how to take the arrow out of the heart, that is the question. Like many such questions, it is delved into by Buddhism, but also by anyone who has lived long enough to see, by trial and error for the most part, that the futility we begin to feel as we attempt to bring down the archer leaves our wounded heart untended, and the medicine of life that abounds wherever we are is left unapplied. So for many people, there's no sense of the medicine being available just wherever you are, really, just because we have life, we have existence, we have trees, we have water, you know, we have the sun. Those things can be forgotten in our pain. We just turn away. And this is a teaching of turning toward what is actually there, you know, what is supporting you. And a teacher that I really respect a lot, and I mention in this book, who is a good illustration of this teaching, is Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese, you know, spiritual father and poet, very fine poet, whose time in Vietnam of trying to make a difference in that horrible war that our country caused and prolonged, left him with so many, you know, insights and so much pain. And he learned, you know, he learned the hard way. Sorrow sometimes is such a terrible teacher, but a thorough one. And so he learned that, you know, to take the arrow out of your own heart is the work. And then you can look around and see what is to be done. And I dedicated this book before it had a different name. It was called The Long Road Home. And it was then dedicated to Muhammad Ali. And the reason it was dedicated to Muhammad Ali, and I should have mentioned this more in the book, it wasn't because he was a boxer. It was because, basically, of his refusal to fight the Vietnamese people. And the way that he, in doing that, showed so much courage and so much compassion, and so much, you know, refusal to be bought and sold and programmed. And it takes so much out of you. I mean, it takes a lot, you get a lot, but it takes quite a lot out of you too. And I think some of you are old enough to remember that when he refused to fight the Vietnamese, what he said, you know, they never called me nigger, they never made me feel terrible, they never did horrible things to me. And I am not going to go over there and fight them and kill them. And he said, really, you know, if that's what you think you're going to make me do, you're wrong, and just take me to jail. That is a person who defines his own humanity. And I will always treasure that about him. So this first poem is about Muhammad Ali. I am beginning to comprehend the mystery of the gift of suffering. It is true, as some have said, that it is a crucible in which the gold of one's spirit is rendered and shines. Ali, you represent all of us who stand the test of suffering, most often alone, because who can understand who or what has brought us to our feet? Their knees worn out, their knees worn out. Ancestors stood us up from the awkward position they had to honor on the floor beneath the floor. I have been weeping all day thinking of this. The cloud of witness, the endless teaching, the long road home. And the long road home is the road to your truest self. And that's the one that is so admirable in so many of the people that many of us here in this room, we have witnessed. We have seen our people do incredible things, face incredible odds, be magnificent in the face of such incredible danger. And so many lost their lives. And we remember this. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, people in this room, we remember this. But they were on the road that matters, the road that is your true self. Why else live? Why else live as someone else? Be yourself if that's the last thing you do. And all the faces come to mind, there's Martin, being himself. I mean, he wasn't going to, go off. I used to fantasize. I was so hurt when he was assassinated, and so hurt when Malcolm was assassinated, and so hurt when, long line. But I realized, I used to say, well, why don't they just stop? There's a point at which you can stop and just go somewhere else and, do like Bob Moses did and go off to Tanganyika. But you can't. They could not. And that was something that I had to recognize, that the long road home, the road that is to what is absolutely true of you, that's the one. It cannot be evaded. And it's a really serious thought, that road. Breathing in, I thank Thich Nhat Hanh. Breathing out, I thank him more. Because there it is, the teacher. If we didn't have teachers, where would we be? It is such a pain to see that teachers are not as respected as they should be. I can hardly stand it. My father, before I was born, many years before I was born, got on a mule and went to try to find a teacher for our community. They cut wood they found somebody and they cut the wood every winter to keep her warm. They fed her, they did everything. First school was burned to the ground, and they built another one. They knew that you have to know. They knew this. Breathing in, I thank my parents. I thank my father. Breathing out, I thank him more. This is called the New Dark Ages, which is where we are. As we slip, this is dedicated to Martin. As we slip into the new dark ages, you become more dear to me. Your face, your smile, that carefully trimmed, never to turn gray hair. Imagine, he was only 39. We may not emerge from this darkness in my lifetime. And yet, I think of you so often smiling or laughing outright, your sturdy frame gallant and ready for the fight. Though it is true you left home like the Buddha to find a way for all of us, leaving your wife and children to suffer a most peculiar loneliness, and yes, the children, some of them, would be lost. Still, we miss you. We miss you dreadfully. As we miss so many others who left us with this one desire, that no matter how deep the fall into obscurity and obscenity this new age portends, life might permit us to remain standing, if only on the inside, smiling and laughing with you among the solemn army who went out into the darkness all those years ago, always singing, to examine the path and be the light. I love the time we've lived through, so many of us in this room. Oh, as hard as some of it has been, it's been such an incredible journey. I mean, I think we're just very lucky. The things that we have seen, the beauty that we have witnessed, the love that we have had shown to us. We have been loved. We have been so loved. This is a poem called "They Will Always Be More Beautiful Than You." They will always be more beautiful than you, the people you are killing. You think it is hatred that you feel, but it is really envy. You imagine that if you destroyed them, we will forget how tall they stood, how level their gaze, how straight their backs, how even the littlest ones stood their little ground. Meanwhile, you stand hunched as a cobbler in your absurd killer's gear, yelling like a crazy person, your face contorted, dripping sweat from what would be, with or without your lethal weapons, a bullying brow and feral chin, killing everyone, but especially children, for sport. Looking cool in your own mind as you crunch bones beneath your boot that are still forming. Conquering. Don't forget the entertainment value of your daily work for the folks back home, who witness from the hillsides in their lounge chairs. What beautiful fun. We are not like those people being broken over there, they tell each other. And for this moment, they are right, they are not. But what does this mean for broken humanity? Selfie this. Would you bring me a tissue, please? Now, I like this very much because I very much loved Fidel Castro. Somebody else did too. Oh, yeah, well, he stood his ground. So, you know, the Pope went to visit Cuba at some point, and he and Fidel had this meeting. And if I could only have brushed up my Spanish and been, you know, somewhere nearby so I could hear what they were saying, I would have loved to have. So anyway, this is called Imagine. We can only imagine what these two, Francis and Fidel, really had to say to each other. The Pope wondering, who really is the Holy Father here? Since everything he's preaching is holy, Fidel has already fulfilled. Fidel, seeing humor in the Argentine's unmistakable Italian roots, and thinking pointedly but not saying politely, like the good Jesuit and revolutionary he is, my people have suffered long enough, don't mess this up. God, it took you forever to get to be Pope. I imagine him saying aloud, "You know it did," Francis might reply, "and you know exactly why. That place I work at is a den of murderers and thieves, and if their stuff hadn't hit the fan, evidence of priests impregnating captive indigenous teens in the past and buggering white altar boys in the present, and folks starting to notice the amount of stolen gold and property we have, enough to house, feed, and clothe pretty much every poor person on the planet, they would never put me out there. Climate change or no climate change. I know, says Fidel. I know, says Fidel. They're clever that way. I used to wonder how you stood it, sitting at the back all those years while they ruled the world from every parliament and throne. Horrifically, too, we can add. And what about that apology business that's always trotted out? They're guilty of the torture and murder of Earth and her peoples all over the place. De Las Casas, for one, has told us some of the worst of it, and now they want to get away with an apology? Some don't even want to do that, says Francis. If the violated and exploited took back their stolen lands and goods from your fellow churchmen and brutally drove them out of house and home after killing their parents and enslaving their children, would they be satisfied with an apology? Oh, it's been a challenge, all right. I can testify to that, says Francis, waving aside a camera. And a personal one for me. It's no fun, especially as you age, to recognize your role as a conquistador of spirit, a conqueror of the people's very spirits and souls, the very definition of devil, I sometimes think. When folks bow to me, I want to shout to them, bowing to your masters is what you were forced to do in the first place. Straighten up. And how bizarre that they want me to kiss their babies. That is chilling, says Fidel. It isn't as if our people are ignorant of witch burnings and the Inquisition, even if they haven't studied reservations in El Norte and Indian boarding schools. But cheer up. Who could have imagined what the world is really like when we were children? Really. We're old now, but in spite of all we learned, so much of it dreadful and scary, even petrifying, we gave life our best shot. Perfection will have to wait for the next incarnation. And I mean of the world, not just us. This is called refugees. They would not be running to us if we were not chasing them with the guns and bombs and rockets we sold to crazy people. Out of their houses, out of their schools, out of their mosques, churches, synagogues, away from their favorite prayer trees. You are guilty, America, of arming the world. If you could, and to make money, you'd arm the universe. Remember Ronald Reagan talking about Star Wars when he could barely walk, let alone handle a laser? That's how deep it is. Our country's need to control the earth that it never seems to care about otherwise. But it's not our country that is at fault. It is the entities who have taken it over, who might not even be from here, which is my own belief, but from some distant star they camouflaged as heaven to make us think they were special, angels even, and not rapists of planets through the terror and manipulation of war. The world rising. Now here is our part. You know, the world has to rise. We have to rise. We don't have a chance if we don't. The world rising can put an end to anything. The murder of children, whales, elephants, forests, oceans. Get up. Roll over on that part of you that will not welcome, recognize, encourage, or even see our rise. A compassionate role. We must be done with cruelty, especially to ourselves, to start again beaming like the sun, fresh. But a role that shows we've reached the end of polite moves to repair and recreate the earth. And will press hard on any parts of us, even those we've loved, that insist on remaining oblivious and asleep. Here is what I believe will be the hardest thing to do: to remember that we have a soul. It is so quiet, the soul, and weighs almost nothing. It might flash across our dullest days only once or twice in a lifetime. That it is there, just the certainty of knowing, just the certainty of knowing it is there, must be our lodestar. This is a poem about an Iraqi woman who is suing the United States. Can you imagine? I mean, talk about ovarios. I mean, here she is, you know. I mean, they've knocked her country back several hundreds of years. She's suing them. Hope is a woman who has lost her fear. For Sundas Sheka Saleh, Iraqi mother, with my love. I love this woman. In our despair that justice is slow, we sit with heads bowed, wondering how and even whether we will ever be healed. Ever be healed. Perhaps it is a question only the ravaged, the violated seriously ask, and is that not now almost all of us? But hope is on the way. As usual, hope is a woman herding her children around her, all she retains of who she was. As usual, except for her kids, she has lost almost everything. Hope is a woman who has lost her fear, along with her home, her employment, her parents, her olive trees, her grapes, the peace of independence, the reassuring noises of ordinary neighbors. Hope rises. She always does. Did we fail to notice this in all the stories they've tried to suppress, that hope rises? Hope rises. She always does. And she puts on her same unfashionable threadbare cloak, and penniless, she flings herself against the cold, polished, protective chainmail of the very powerful, the very rich. Chainmail that mimics suspiciously silver coins and lizard scales. And all she has to fight with is the reality of what was done to her country, her people, her children, her home. All she has as armor is what she has learned must never be done. Not in the name of war, and especially never in the name of peace. Hope is always the teacher with the toughest homework. Our assignment to grasp what has never been breathed in our stolen empire on the hill. Without justice, we will never be healed. And when they spy on us, you know, I love Snowden. You know, he just told us so many things that we'd never know otherwise. How's he doing, I wonder? You know, Assange is having problems. But, you know, really, I hope he understands it's hard, but it is worth it. I mean, these incredible people have done amazing things to try to wake us up and help us understand what's happening. Anyway, this is for Snowden. And when they spy on us, let them discover us. When they spy on us, let them discover us loving. It really doesn't matter what we're loving. Let it be an exercise of the heart. You can begin with your car, if that has been your training. After all, the great ones tell us it is all about, and by any means necessary, opening the heart. It could be your dog. That is where most of my friends and I would be found. It could be the desert, a mountain, river, or a peculiar bend in a lonely road that makes you ache with longing. Let them find us deep in the conspiracy, breathing together of love, our hearts open, resigned to being these sometimes ridiculous and always vulnerable human beings, that those who have no experience that love can exist in this world must spy upon. They spy because they don't know what it is. They spy because they don't have it. That's who they are. This one about healthcare. How peculiar it feels to speak about healthcare in America, taking care of people's health while our government bombs the limbs off children in faraway lands. I mean, really, you know? Are we in a loony bin or what? How peculiar it feels to speak about healthcare in America, taking care of people's health while our government bombs the limbs off children in faraway lands. With our money. And starves and imprisons not a few of them at home. How odd it seems, not obviously known that true health care must mean, at minimum, deliberate non-harming of anyone. How strange is haggling over how much this or that medical procedure is going to cost, meaning strictly where our own bodies, and they are precious, are concerned, while over there military procedures our country exports may slice a grandfather in half while his grandchildren, who have crowded around him in confident anticipation of joy, become clots of blood and matted hair on the walls, what's left of the walls. Weird how we talk and haggle as if we are the only people in the universe needing care of our health. Health care. Care of life itself. What the maimed and slaughtered in many lands have died, hopelessly crying for. How you doing? Oh, I see I don't have much time, so let me read you this one that I was saving. I had a young friend who got his passport, and you know, passports can be, well, sometimes wonderful, sometimes quite scary, depending on where you are sent or where you send yourself. But this is a poem to remind us who get our passports and can go somewhere. You know, there was a time when we didn't need passports. I mean, we don't remember that, but actually, what a different world that was. Okay, this is called Sweet People Are Everywhere, to young Brian, who is getting a passport. Some of the people in Turkey are very sweet. Some of those in Afghanistan are very sweet. Some of the people in the Americas are very sweet. In Canada, too. Some of the people are sweet. In Mexico, you will definitely find sweet people. Likewise, in the Sudan. There are sweet people among the Zulu in South Africa, and every language group in Africa has some sweet people in it. There are sweet people in Iceland and in Russia. There are many sweet people in Korea. There are millions of sweet people in China. There are sweet people in Japan. If the sweet people were the leaders in these historically warring Asian countries, they would treat each other much better. There are sweet people in the Congo. There are sweet people in Egypt. And sweet people in Australia. Many sweet people are in Norway. Numerous sweet people are in Spain. There are many sweet people in Ghana and Kenya, and sweet people also in Guam and the Philippines. There are sweet people in Cuba. Many sweet people exist in Iran. There are sweet people in Libya and Colombia. Sweet people are in Vietnam. Sweet people exist in England and Burma. There are sweet people for sure in Ireland. Sweet people are in France. Sweet people are holding on in Syria. They're doing the same in Iraq. Some sweet people live in Venezuela. Many very sweet people live in Brazil. There are sweet people in Israel, and there are sweet people also in Palestine. Actually, in almost every house on the planet, there is at least one very sweet person that you would be happy to know. Sweet people are everywhere. Being sweet, they must not be disappeared. We are lost if we can no longer experience how sweet human beings can be. Promise me never to forget this. No matter how far you go on this new passport, where you are directed to land, your own sweet self, or who sends you.
Thank you so much. So Desert Rose is going to give us one more song, and it's a danceable tune, so that we can go out of here together with love and music in our hearts, and maybe a little shake in our tail feathers, and a little dancing in our feet. And I want to say that when we conclude after this song, you're invited to go visit Desert Rose at their table. They have many of their CDs available, including a brand new CD of music they wrote and recorded specifically for the US tour and for Oakland. So go check that out. And then on the other side is the OneLife table. Hey, hey now. Make sure you get one of our postcards. Make sure you check out some of our offerings. And Sister Alice gifted this event with 20 copies of a beautiful children's book about why war is a bad idea. And I want to ask that some of you have children here tonight, that the folks who have children here tonight get first dibs on those books. Okay? All right, so are you ready?
No, Alice, get up.
Oh, I know. Wait, can't we? Okay.
I'm gonna leave that.
To celebrate International Peace Day, we composed a song called Ubuntu. Does anybody know what Ubuntu means?
I do.
Okay, I see some hands going up. The chant is Umuntu, Mumuntu, Ngabantu. I'm glad you all got that, because that's the chant that we are going to, I hope you can join us. And the dance The meaning of the chant is basically, I am because of you. Which means we are interrelated, we are interdependent, and we have one planet that we share. Archbishop Tutu is known for one joke of his. When the colonials came to South Africa, and they said, my native Africans, let us pray. And they closed their eyes, and when they opened their eyes, they were sitting with the Bible, and the colonials were sitting with their land. And the land at that point in time did not mean anything, because they thought, where could you take it? Unfortunately. So, in South Africa and in Africa, where Ubuntu is best described by a child of yours is a child of mine. And this is very prevalent still in Africa. So let us celebrate that concept of a child of yours is a child of mine. That we're all brothers and sisters. We are all foreigners that's here for a very small period of time, and that ultimately we may have different mothers, but we do have one spiritual father. Okay? And then we're going to do the Madiba Jive. Does anyone know the Madiba Jive? The Mandela dance? Even I can do it with 2 left feet. It's just like that, okay? So this is how we're going to roll.
That's all you gotta do.
Okay?
Get up! Get up! Get up! Y'all get up! Get up!